Or you wearing them suits like Johan. Oh no, you want them little hair Tamming braids like Ampan. Or you trying to get you a little stud like Devin had. Young nigga from that north side, I never been capping. Duval nigga, I'm never ducking that action. I pull up in that whip, niggas know what I be blasting. Random ass podcast, them fuck niggas be snapping. I don't know if it's me, but I'm the realest nigga of the week. Disagree, they gon' have to come and get their ass beat. Bare beneath, put that boy 6 feet deep. I had Joe zip him up when they say that nigga deceased and pay Deacon Ample Rat to go slide to the wake and preach. Thanksgiving at Devin crib, but sub is what he eat. Niggas been lame. Can I get a lean ass nigga? You ain't a fan of the pod or green ass nigga? Random X, a podcast. I say random X, a podcast. It's the best damn podcast. Niggas start sleeping. If a nigga disagree, pussy boy stop breathing. Random X, a podcast. I say random X, a podcast. It's the best damn podcast. Niggas start sleeping. If a nigga disagree, pussy boy stop breathing. Oh, you wearing them suits like Johan. Oh no.
What's going on, peoples? We are back. We are back. We are back. Let me tell y'all, I smoked the black and mild earlier today. That was the worst decision I probably made in a long time. Smoking a black and mild is like taking a laxative. My stomach is flipping right now. Good Lord. Good Lord. But y'all see the title. It is Friday. Today we are going to study some history. Saint, what it do? Appreciate you tapping in. Appreciate you tapping in. Today we are going to study some history. I'm gonna be honest. I got a few personal subjects that I'm interested in, like kind of tapping into. But hey, y'all, do me a favor and let me know what y'all feeling. What are some subjects we should study today? Tap in, talk to me, let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Record, yeah. I run that bitch at least once a month. I can tell you that. I run that shit at least once a month trying to put people on. It's an old ass song, but that shit turn me up. If you go to the gym, man, that's perfect for your playlist. Like I say, today, Friday, we tapping into a little history. Me personally, I watch a lot of anime and shit. So one thing that I've been wanting to get into is the Japanese history. Just because there's a lot that goes into it, as far as how the regimes change and such. One of my first questions that I had when I was like, okay, we could get into Japanese history was how did the eras come about? You know what I mean? Like, their periods last, they got periods that would last in hundreds of years, and then you got some that lasted 4 years. So I know it's a change in ideologies and such, right? But do you gotta kill someone to like? If I say, "Hey, I want this to be the Jefferson era," let's just say, do I gotta go whack somebody to like impose my my free will? So today we're gonna get into some of that. We're gonna start with a little bit of the history. We're gonna kind of jump all over the place. If y'all watch any of the history channels on YouTube, like Crash Course, you can go ahead and drop some of the links in. I mean, some of the names into the chat and whatnot. Let me know what some of the YouTube channels are that y'all fuck with for history, or some of the subjects that y'all are into, period. Like I said, today we're gonna go through it all together. All right, now I'm just pulling up some Japanese history over here, and then I'll share my screen with y'all so we can kind of be all on the same page. Boom, boom, boom. Another thing that I'm like curious about when it comes to history, right? It's like we hear major things happening at certain points. So like the medieval times. When you think of medieval times, it's almost like, or the Dark Ages. Let's break it down to just that. When you think of the Dark Ages, you think that the Dark Ages was across the globe, right? It really only affected Europe. So what happened everywhere else? I know in Africa they were prospering. Like I say, I was just curious. Okay, what happened in these different regions during different periods of life? So that's kind of what we're gonna start tapping into on Fridays, just seeing how life went throughout history, throughout different regions and shit. I don't want to go too far back. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I see Japanese history goes years and years and years before Christ, right? I don't know that I care to go through all of that. So I'm trying to see where we're gonna start today. We might start in the Edo period. Should definitely get interesting there. I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen over here so y'all can keep up with me. Like I say, if y'all want to talk about any other history subjects, we'll tap into it right now. We are in Japanese history with the Edo period. I'm gonna pull up a YouTube clip just so that we can get some better contextual reference, and then we'll read along on Wikipedia so we can just tap in. It's a quick little video we can listen to.
From 1603 to 1868.
As a matter of fact, before we get into it, let me start by thanking everybody. I always appreciate y'all tapping in with the live streams. Not everyone's going to be, as high energy as, when I first came in. I had my homie with me. We was drinking and shit. But, I'm hoping that they all provide entertainment, value, yada, yada. Today is history, baby. So grab your pens, grab your pads. I don't know. I mean, we ain't doing this shit for real. But we're going to get into a little bit of this
to 1868,
history.
Japan closed its borders to outsiders and forbade Japanese people from leaving the island. This self-isolation was known as Sakoku, and it was one of the defining features of the Edo or Tokugawa period. While Europe and its colonies were experiencing uprisings and revolutions, Japan remained largely cut off from external influence under the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate. Keep watching as we explore the culture and society of Japan during the Edo period.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, like right after the Edo period is when they started to like the samurai and shit died off, if I'm not mistaken.
During the 1400s, Japan lived through a period of instability and war. The country's unification started in the mid-1500s with Oda Nobunaga, the most powerful warlord in Japan. By 1590, Japan was united under samurai and daimyo Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Hideyoshi died in 1598 after appointing 5 high-ranking officials, called tairo, to protect his young son until he came of age. One of these regents, Tokugawa Ieyasu, made what was viewed as a power grab when he moved to Hideyoshi's palace in Kyoto and approved a number of political marriages that strengthened the position of his own clan. Many of the tairo and the daimyo suspected that Ieyasu planned on supplanting Hideyoshi's son and heir, Toyotomi Hideyori. In the summer of 1600, a samurai named Ishida Mitsunari, who had formed a coalition dedicated to maintaining the authority of the Toyotomi clan, denounced the actions of Ieyasu. In response, Ieyasu declared war.
Boom. My first question was, do you have to overthrow someone? Do you have to kill someone to change the periods? Now, I don't know if we're about to get into I mean, obviously, we're not. The Edo period lasted for, I want to say 200 years. But Ieyasu is about to make his play, obviously. So I don't know if he's finna kill the shogun's son or what. But this is the kind of cutthroat shit you had to be on in Japan, huh? I don't know. I don't know if I have the cunning ability to be this some conniving shit. You know what I'm saying? This is some conniving shit. Just think about it. You literally gotta tell everyone that you fuck with, yo, I know y'all rock with dog, right? The shogun had been cool to you, but fuck that nigga. I want y'all two to get married. I want y'all to get married. We all gonna click up. Now we stronger than him. Shit, what he gonna do? Once we take over, if you want to look out for him, that's on you.
The following conflict, the Battle of Sekigahara, was the last major conflict between the Eastern and Western armies. Ieyasu was victorious, and Mitsunari was beheaded in Kyoto.
See, you got to kill somebody. You got to kill somebody. Again, appreciate everybody tapping in. K, Reversible King, Unsatisfied Knicks fan. Appreciate y'all tapping in. Yes, sir. We are live with the social studies. I didn't take a history class throughout high school, so we about to deep dive through a lot of this shit. Y'all gonna follow along with me.
Took profitable lands from his defeated enemies and gave them to his allies. His success afforded him a great deal of power. In 1603, Emperor Go-Yosei, head of the prestigious yet powerless imperial court, granted Ieyasu the title of shogun, acknowledging him as the most powerful daimyo in Japan. As the seat of the Tokugawa shogunate, Edo became a major administrative center in Japan. 2 years later, Ieyasu retired and passed the title of shogun on to his son. Even in retirement, Ieyasu was heavily involved in foreign affairs and welcomed trade with Portugal, Spain, Holland, and England, securing firearms, commercial profits, and general information. But by 1612, he had entirely changed his views on the Europeans. In particular, Ieyasu saw the Christian missionaries as threatening his carefully constructed political order. Ieyasu believed that the unrest and civil wars in Japan resulted from the introduction of Christianity, which was mainly introduced by the Portuguese.
All right, we're gonna pause it right there. It seems like and I'm just being honest here. Christianity sparked a war everywhere it went. Everywhere it went. We're gonna get into Christianity, the history of that too. Reversible King said, favorite era of any country. Depends what we're talking. As a black man, I think about the music that black people were creating at its inception. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were actually allowed to start recording it, so we talking what, 60, I mean, not that, of course we had opportunities well before the 60s, but I'm saying by this point it was perfected. Probably around I love 30s, 40s music too. I know it's doo-woppy and swing and all of that shit, but I fuck with it. So I love the music that we created from, let's just say, 1930 to the 80s, really. You know what I'm saying? 90s, we got rap. I love rap, of course, but that time music was just, to me, really, really powerful. From the instrumentation to the emotions that you got, it felt like you were steered by the songs. From a truly, like, I love the Edo period, and that's kind of why I started here. Love the history of the Edo period. There's so much conflict that happened throughout the Edo period. Like, we're at the start of it in 1603, and we already got, what, 2 or 3 wars, if I'm not mistaken. Look at how it starts off. At this point, they had cut off, you couldn't leave Japan. That sounds crazy to me. Imagine just even your state saying, hey, you can't travel outside of this. We got full control. You can't travel outside of these limits. That's insane. So I don't like to think like, damn, what if I was in the situation? You know what I mean? But I do kind of like to think, what would it be like, in a sense, if those same things were maybe put onto us here. Saturday Stun said, you and Amp need to start making music playlists from different genres and era. Y'all know a lot about music. I think that would be extremely dope. I know that, or let me say it like this. I know that through the streams, I want to start incorporating a chat to put together playlists that we could release weekly. I do plan on streaming every day, so we'll just pick a day that, you know, every week we use that day and build, and then shit throughout the week, if niggas send in songs, we'll play them and shit like that. And put together playlists, but that's definitely something coming for sure. Amp and I definitely need to put out some RAOP playlists. We've done it in the past, but we do, as you know, we do so much that some things can be a little hard to stay consistent with when you're introducing something, not to say better, you know what I mean, but something a little stronger at times. So yeah, that's a great suggestion though. I'm gonna write that down for real. I got my sketch pad with me too. So I was telling y'all, I really fuck with anime and shit. I've been kind of drawing. This is Blaze of the Guardian. It ain't anime, but little color pencil and shit. I used to tell people I'm not an artist, but I can be, I guess. I do plan on doing that here soon, Reversible King. I just got to get my shit back together. It's been a lot going on, so I'm working on getting all of that shit back in order. I'm behind on things, and it's weighing heavy on me, but I'm gonna get right. You know what I mean? Everybody gonna get right, and I'm gonna go above and beyond to make up on my end. But yeah, y'all gonna see the work coming back together here very soon. These are some sketches that I just been drawing to pass the time. This one here is Spawn. I stole some some color pencils from my cousins, and I was like, shit, let me start fucking with this shit. I ain't really, you know, I just be passing the time with it. So some of these ain't even really nowhere near done. I fuck with this one. That nigga Amp said Porky the Pig look autistic. That had me dying laughing. Yeah, but y'all see, man. Like I said, we're gonna do a little bit of everything in these streams. Right now, we're studying the history. So Fridays, I think that I'm going to just deep dive in. I'm going to probably do earlier streams on Fridays. That way, if I want to go out or anything like that, you know what I mean? I don't feel the same burden to be stricken down. And we might go IRL. But I want to start doing history on Fridays, and then we'll follow it up by going to museums and things like that. I want to make this really immersive, so y'all gonna grow with me as a streamer. Like I say, I appreciate all the support throughout, and And right now we are in the Japanese era. We're studying Japanese history. We're in the Edo period. Christianity was just introduced. Ieyasu got a problem with it. He feel like this is starting to challenge his order in Japan. So, and he keep in mind he just rose to power. So
he began to limit foreign trade and restricted the movements of Christian missionaries. Ieyasu's policies were intensified by his grandson, Tokugawa Iemitsu, who implemented the policy of Sakoku. Iemitsu issued further bans on Christianity in the 1630s, essentially banning Christianity from Japan. Iemitsu also exercised greater control over Japan's borders, requiring Japanese sea captains to carry a license. While Ieyasu started the Edo period, Iemitsu solidified the Tokugawa legacy. By 1634, Ieyasu and his followers knew that they were strong enough to rule without the imperial ruler's direct blessing. He was the last shogun to visit the imperial city of Kyoto for over 200 years. By 1635, Iemitsu had banned Japanese overseas travel and started limiting the number of foreign ships docking at Nagasaki. Japanese citizens were forbidden from traveling overseas, and returning to Japan from abroad usually meant the death penalty. Only a restricted number of Chinese and Dutch merchants were permitted to trade with Japan, using Dejima Island in the Bay of Nagasaki. As a further strategy of control, Iemitsu required the daimyo to maintain households in Edo and live there for a set amount of time. The law required the clan leaders' families to live permanently in Edo. The leaders had to return to their country estates every other year to oversee agricultural production. Since the daimyos had to travel and only spent a portion of their time in their hometowns, they were never able to organize an uprising. The fact that their families were in the capital also motivated them not to rebel. During the 264-year reign of the Tokugawa shogunate, a strict social order was implemented. The classes were split into warriors, farmers, artisans, and merchants, and mobility between the classes was forbidden. Although the imperial rulers still lived a life of luxury, they became largely figureheads with no real power throughout the Edo period. They cultivated the traditions of courtly life, including practicing the tea ceremony, waka poetry, ikebana, and calligraphy. But the ruling was left to the shogunate. Underneath the shogun and the daimyo were the samurai, who were at the top of the class system yet formed less than 7% of the population. They were the only Japanese citizens allowed to carry swords and served under lords who hired their services for protection. The samurai made their money by levying taxes on the farmers, who comprised.
this here reminds me a lot of the Italian structure. And this is another reason why we tapping into the history, right? We're going to see how things are interconnected. So think about how the mob structures run. That sounds a lot like what we're hearing here. If you think about travel during this time, right? And I let's just say you go to a foreign land and you hear, hey, this is how I've structured my country for complete order. And you come back and say, I'm going to start my family like this. I'm going to bring it back real quick because we know about the samurai. The samurai, 7% of where am I at? I'm trying to get to where they said, it was broken down into what, 4 or 5 classes? Hold on, let's play it from here.
The classes were split into warriors, farmers, artisans, and merchants.
4 classes. All right. Let me bring it back so I can read it. Warriors, farmers, artisans, and merchants. Think about that. You got your fighters, you got your food providers, you got your creatives, and then you got those to sell it. The fact that you couldn't rise above or below is insane, right? Man, this shit here. Interesting. Like I say, it reminds me a lot of the Italian structure, just how you have certain roles you don't. I mean, you can ascend, but you got to be blessed into that, right? We just heard how Ieyasu was given the title of shogunate by someone else. Same thing with the whole donning. Hey, you can start your family, etc., etc.
And merchants, and mobility between the classes was forbidden. Although the imperial rulers still lived a life of luxury, they became largely figureheads with no real power throughout the Edo period. They cultivated the traditions of courtly life, including practicing the tea ceremony, waka poetry, ikebana, and calligraphy, but the ruling was left to the shogunate. Underneath the shogun and the daimyo were the samurai, who were at the top of the class system yet formed less than 7% of the population. They were the only Japanese citizens allowed to carry swords and served under lords who hired their services for protection. The samurai made their money by levying taxes on the farmers, who comprised 80% of the population and were the next class down. The farmers were forbidden to engage in non-agricultural
That's the
activities
same thing as
and were
loan
essentially
sharking,
in servitude
right?
to those in authority.
Not loan sharking, but I forget what the law is called, but what you're an enforcer. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm gonna sell you protection, and you pay me this. That's where I'm making the correlations, right? Imagine you busting your ass all day cooking food and shit, and one or two people show up with a damn sword, talking about you got to give it all up. I'd be pissed. The fact I didn't realize that the samurai was only 7% of the nation. That's not big at all. That means those movies where you're seeing one lone soldier is probably true. I always am curious if they was really getting down like that with a sword. We'll have to pull up a YouTube video and see if motherfuckers
Underneath the peasants were the
nice
craftspeople
like that.
and then the merchants. There was a bottom rung on the Japanese social ladder, the burakumin, or untouchables. These were anyone whose job was related to death, such as butchers, tanners, leather makers, undertakers, or gravediggers. Your parents' occupation determined your status, and so you and your descendants would be restricted by your class. In the home, families were expected to be obedient to the head of the household. Women did not have much status, and the notion of dansenjan, or respect for the male, contempt for the female, was encouraged. The Tokugawa regime also adopted Neo-Confucianism as their system of ethics, feeling that the previous Shintoism and Buddhism systems were inadequate. The Shoshigaku schools of philosophy offered intellectual rationalization for the strict social order known as the Bakuhan system. Japanese scholar Hayashi Reisen argued that the social order should reflect the Chinese heavenly order, and that, therefore, the strict class system was in accordance with the teachings of Confucius. The Tokugawa shogunate placed emphasis on agriculture, which stimulated economic growth. This economic expansion helped the development of urban centers in cities such as Edo, Osaka, and Kyoto. Edo, in particular, expanded exponentially and became one of the largest cities of its time. Edo's growth was primarily due to the decree that the daimyo had to build and maintain residences in Edo. The lords brought thousands of attendants, who all needed additional houses, food, clothing, goods, and entertainment. The growth of urban populations led to an explosion of culture, and the haiku form of poetry was developed, as well as kabuki and bunraku theater. Although samurai were forbidden to attend theater performances, the art was so captivating that the warrior class often disguised themselves to attend. Polychrome woodblock printing helped spread images of celebrities of popular culture and travel books, as well as detailed sites of historical or aesthetic interest, while people undertook pilgrimage to far-off temples and shrines. During the early Edo period, the imperial court, having been left to its own devices,
Reversible King said that's the crazy part about history. 90% of the population was considered lower class, and that's insane, right? It's like, now you think, how does the nation grow economically like that, right? Over here, I was just trying to read, what is the Edo period known for? Edo period is known for 2 centuries of relative peace and stability under the Tokugawa shogunate, characterized by an isolationist foreign policy known as sakoku, and a strict social hierarchy. So, that's pretty much everything that we just heard, right? I'm trying to see. All right, let's look into economic growth. Yeah. So the urbanization, the capital city of Edo, today Tokyo, grew into one of the largest cities in the world, becoming a hub of commerce and culture. That makes sense. Flourishing arts, the period witnessed the rise of popular art forms, including, I'm not gonna try it, ukiyo, I think, woodblock prints, kabuki theater. I'm not familiar with that. Woodblock prints, I believe everyone's seen some form of a woodblock print. As you could imagine, you pretty much just cutting the wood a little, like you're cutting the outline of the image that you want. You paint over that and then slap a picture on top. Kabuki theater. We're gonna search that next. But and a wide variety of popular literature. So that's the haikus. If you are into that, haikus are actually really dope poems just to be able to get your point across in the structure itself. Education and literacy rates were high, with many ordinary people able to read, leading to a boom in the publication of various books on different topics. So that's probably how they grew, just having a high educated, economy, really, because with the books, with all of that could be outsourced. Books, art, poetry, all of that could be outsourced. So not outsourced, but you could sell that to different countries at high value, especially during that time. You know what I mean? If you can't come to Japan, but you can get the art from it. Like I said, they were trading with the different nations earlier. Ieyasu. And I was talking about there were conflicts in the Edo period. It's not the Edo period. I was gravely mistaken, because the first thing it says that it was known for 2 centuries of relative peace and stability. Let's see, how did it end? Let's see. Now we're not watching a 48-minute video, but actually, let's see if we can get a condensed one.
Edo Bay, July 8th, 1853. 4 Western ships sail into the bay, headed for the capital of the Tokugawa shogunate. Ignoring warnings that this port is close to foreign ships, they anchor, turned their heavy guns toward a coastal trading town, and open fire. But they're blanks. Intended, they claim, to celebrate the 4th of July. But the intention of this fleet and its leader, Commodore Matthew Perry, is not so benign. He has a letter from U.S. President Millard Fillmore requesting that Japan open its ports to trade. But Perry also sends his own letter along with the gift of a white flag. He says that if the shogunate refuses the request, it will lead to war. A war that Japan will certainly lose, and in such case, they should use the white flag to indicate surrender. The shogunate will accept Perry's terms, and in doing so, bring the era of the samurai to a bloody end.
I don't know if I like this one. But I mean, hey, check this out. You live for 264 under peace. Now, the system is fucked up from the sounds of it. System is fucked up. I'd love to see if there are any writings on how people, like, what the popular thought was during that period. But as soon as you open your gates, let's see what followed the Edo period. Okay. Now, with the Meiji period, which came after the Edo period in 1868, it says this marked a pivotal shift from feudal military rule under the Tokugawa shogunate to a modernized, centralized imperial government that propelled Japan into the modern world. There are a lot of animes that kind of tap into the Meiji Restoration. Reversible King said, I think some samurais kept journals. Ooh. Let's see. So I guess we would have to kind of go back before the Edo period to learn about the imperial rule to see why power was restored to the emperor with Emperor Meiji at the center, but it says the restoration of the imperial rule. Let's look at some samurai journals. Let's see. I realize I'm kind of all over the place with this one here, but keep in mind, this is my first go at it, you know what I mean, studying the history on here. As we build, I'm going to find a way to make this very structured, and we'll get all of our questions answered. I'll start forecasting what we tap into. Shit, we'll pick and choose, but this one I'm shooting from the hip. So there's a book called Genroku Otatami Bugyo no Niki. It's supposed to be based on a diary written by a samurai. Bonzaiman was a samurai warrior in the middle class and a kind of facilities department chief in Owari, now Nagoya, in Edo period. He loved going to the theater, gambling, and poems, indulged sex and alcohol, and suffered from hysterical his wife and lover. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Some people can't structure sentences. He was interested in martial arts and became a disciple of many of them, but he had no physical and mental power and no sense for them. What are we talking about here? This is nonsense. There probably are journals for real, but they probably got those on lockdown. Let's get into the Meiji period. The Meiji Restoration. Let's see.
"1853, and the Americans are here. Where? Japan. Why? To open up the country. The man leading the American expedition was a certain Commodore Matthew Perry, who essentially told the Japanese to allow American imports or face war. For the previous 200 years, Japan had been closed to all foreigners under the pain of death, because as far as the Japanese were concerned, foreigners were a tad meddlesome. The orders to close the borders had come from the Bakufu, also known as the shogunate. The Bakufu was the central government of Japan, which was led by a shogun who lived in Edo. Technically, he was appointed by the emperor, who lived in Kyoto, but frankly, the emperor was just a puppet. Japan at this point was very decentralized, with regional daimyo able to set their own tax rates. It was also undergoing a period of major economic stagnation, and there were social tensions bubbling away under the surface. Inflation and famine swept the countryside, and many were noticing the increased wealth of the merchant class, despite them being at the bottom of the social hierarchy.
Okay, so see, that's what we were talking about. That's what we was talking about. Hey, Reversible King said he sounded like a real nigga. I was thinking the same thing, and then I realized that this sounds more like it's based. It was very fictional. You know what I mean? Like they were about to tell us a fib. All right, so I was mentioning earlier that the class system was very fucked up, right? And though for 200 years you living under peace, at some point you get fed up. But was it the people? It
was within the context of this period of tension that the Americans had arrived, and they pledged to return a year later to hear the Japanese response. Apparently, Commodore Perry couldn't wait that long, and so returned about 6 months later, this time with more ships, and the Japanese signed a treaty to allow trade. And soon after that, the British arrived and gained a similar deal. By 1858, Japan had established formal relations and trading agreements with the US, Britain, the Russian Empire, the Netherlands, and France. These concessions to foreign powers made the Bakufu look weak. There were major splits among Japan's daimyo about how to respond to outside threats. To make things worse, the shogun was also dying and an heir had to be selected. So in order to promote unity, the chief counselor of the Bakufu, Hotta Masayoshi, asked the Emperor Komai to give his approval to the trade deals and the shogun's heir. Well, the emperor said no, and Hotta resigned in shame. Some daimyo, such as that of Chosu, rallied against the shogun, and by 1866 Japan was in crisis. The new shogun, Yoshinobu, attempted to crush Chosu and to restore order, but was defeated when the daimyo of Satsuma refused to help. The Bakufu's defeat led Chosu and Satsuma to march on Kyoto, which they captured in 1867. Whilst there, the new Emperor Meiji announced the restoration of the emperor as the ruler of Japan. This kick-started what is known as the Boshin War, which the shogunate quickly lost. This was coincided with the modernization of Japanese military tactics, and both sides had received help from the West. Having been victorious, Emperor Meiji moved from Kyoto to Edo, which was renamed Tokyo, from where he would run Japan. Over the next couple of decades, the imperial government began the process of nation building, such as by building a new shrine in Tokyo for Japan's war dead and by dismantling the social hierarchies of the past. The late 19th century also saw the creation of Japan's first political parties, who argued over important new issues, such as representation or whether or not Korea should be immediately invaded. The Japanese military went through a period of reform as well. For a start, Japan now had a national military which fought under one flag. At first, it consisted exclusively of samurai, but was reformed by Field Marshal Yamagata Aritomo, who introduced national conscription for all men over 20. Also during the closing decades of the 19th century, Japan underwent a period of massive industrialization. Railways started to spring up from 1872 alongside numerous textile factories, much of which was paid for by the state. Of course, the state had other expenses, such as paying off samurai, who up until this point received an annual payment from the local daimyo. This payment, called a stipend, was carried over to the new imperial government and was very expensive. Needless to say, the government spending almost half of its income paying a bunch of samurai was controversial, and beginning in 1871 the government started to phase it out. So the samurai at this point were becoming quite upset. They were no longer at the top of the social strata, stopped receiving free money, and weren't even seen as the honourable defenders of Japan, since any old peasant could join the army now. This resentment led to the Satsuma Rebellion of 1876.
I used to think that the samurai was the top shit. I thought they were heroes, more or less. I ain't realize they was fuck niggas. That's what I'm hearing. These niggas stole from the poor. They didn't really have to fight during the Edo period. 264 years. Peace. All you was doing was taking. Only motherfuckers walking around with a sword. Hey, man. I'm glad they ended them fuck niggas. All that damn samurai cool shit. Fuck them niggas. Where the movies where the samurai die? Show me that.
Which the new conscript army was able to crush quite handily. The major changes Japan underwent during the second half of the 19th century culminated in the 1889 Constitution. This constitution created a Western-style government with a prime minister who served under the emperor and with an elected lower house, although the vast majority of men and no women could vote. Culture at this time also underwent massive changes, and the people of Japan had the difficult task to define what it meant to be Japanese. The government attempted to aid the creation of a Japanese identity through the new education system. This, alongside conscription, was used to promote and foster a shared sense of identity. So Japan quickly found itself becoming an ambitious modern nation-state. And what was the one thing that all the great nation-states of the world had at this point? They had empires, which meant Japan wanted one too. This kickstarted a period of imperial expansion. In 1875, Japan took the Ryukyu Islands, the best known being Okinawa. After that, Japan turned its eye to Korea, which at this point was a puppet of China. To people like Aritomo, Korea was going to be conquered eventually, so it may as well have been by Japan. At first, using some good old-fashioned gunboat diplomacy, the Japanese signed their own treaty with Korea. Eventually, the Japanese presence in Korea led to what is known as the Donghak Rebellion. This massively destabilized Korea, and so both Japan and China sent troops in to protect their interest. These troops clashed, and thus begun the First Sino-Japanese War. Because of the modernization of the military, as well as a huge naval build-up, the Japanese thoroughly stomped the Chinese. As a result, Korea formally entered Japan's sphere of influence, and Japan also seized Taiwan. China also ceded here the Liaodong Peninsula, but after threats from Russia, Japan gave it up. Japan wanted to be seen by Westerners as their equal. This didn't happen, despite the fact that Japan actually provided the most troops and ships for the Eight-Nation Alliance which put down the Boxer Rebellion in China between 1899 and 1902. The Boxer Rebellion was essentially an uprising designed to remove foreigners from China, but these countries intervened and eventually the rebellion was crushed. The long-term effects were that Europeans were less meddlesome in China, except for Russia, who took the opportunity to seize Manchuria. So, the only European country that took Japan seriously was Britain, who in 1902 entered an alliance with them. Importantly, Britain became the first Western nation to acknowledge the Japanese claim to Korea. In 1905, Japan sought similar acknowledgement from Russia, which they refused. In response, they launched a sneak attack against the Russian fleet in Port Arthur, thus starting the 1905 Russo-Japanese War, in which the Russians were firmly defeated. As a result, Japan gained this territory and Russia agreed to leave Manchuria. Very little happened in the next decade unless you were Emperor Meiji because that was when you died, or unless you were Korea because that was when you were annexed. In 1914, Britain called Japan into World War I, which Japan used as an excuse to grab all of these German territories. It also used the chaos to issue the 21 demands to China. These were rejected and eventually only 13 of these demands were agreed upon. Japan gained influence over Manchuria, but it sowed division between Japan and Britain as well as upsetting the United States. For its help during the war, Japan was invited to join in drafting the Treaty of Versailles and in establishing the League of Nations. Japan asked for the League to consider all races as equal. This was rejected formally by the Americans, but it was mostly because of Britain, since it would have meant that Britain had to consider its colonial subjects as equals, which wasn't going to happen. In 1920, Britain abandoned the Anglo-Japanese alliance and the next year, alongside the United States, convened the Washington Naval Conference. This sought to limit the number of large ships each country's navy could have, with only Britain and the United States being allowed the most. The next year, things wouldn't get much better for Japan due to a major earthquake which killed 150,000 people. Furthermore, the Japanese economy collapsed and the military became much more influential in politics. In 1926, Emperor Showa, better known in the West as Emperor Hirohito, ascended the throne and his reign saw the continued growth of emperor worship. On September the 18th, 1931...
Oh, by this point, the Meiji period is over. 1931, the Meiji period is over. So, Meiji period came and went like a fart in the wind. What, 64 years? Yeah. No, 54 years. 54 years. Is my mathing? Might be 44, I don't know. 44 years. 44 years. Meiji period. Them niggas just basically said, hey, we want to be a part of society. That's it. I don't give a fuck about legacy. Nigga. When I die, somebody that believe what I believe gonna run this shit. And then, hey, y'all do whatever after that. But they ain't really believe in the Meiji era. They put an end to that shit pretty quick. All right, so the Jomon period, 10,000 to 300 BC. Yayoi period, Yayoi. I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't know how to say that word. 300 BC to 300 AD. So back then, you know, them periods was lasting. They said change it and we might kill you, nigga. It wasn't until about 710 niggas started to say, hey, we gonna see about you. 710 to 794 AD, Nara period. That's not the, you know, that's for, based on this history, that ain't shit. That ain't shit. There's some niggas that lived through that. Now let's get into the modern history. We got Edo period, 1603 to 1868. The Meiji period, 1868 to 1912. Taisho, the Taisho period, 1912 to 1926. Again, another one. They ain't really believe. They was just like, hey, we got to do something real quick. What was this one known for? We're going to figure that out because y'all only lasted 14 years. The Showa period. If y'all watch anime, some of these standing out. Some of these is standing out. Oh, shit. Nah, see, I ain't want to do all that AI. Yeah, so after we get through the Meiji, well, after we get through the Edo period, all of these are relatively short. It's crazy to think how much, I mean, when you got a history like this that you could track all the way back to 10,000 BC, that's insane. Them niggas was doing Godzilla sculptures. That's a big ass chicken. It probably was aliens. That's why people look so funny. He's from the Jomon period. I mean, I like. Let's see if we can get an overview of how these names were brought together. I mean, the Edo period sounds more or less like whoever was from Edo. Ieyasu might have been, you know, from Edo or operating out of Edo, and it just okay. He established the capital in Edo. Yeah, so that makes sense. But 10,000 BC, I don't even think y'all had language. So I know that they were naming these people this or whatever. Where are we at with okay, Taisho is based on the Taisho democracy, Emperor Taisho. He look like he don't play no games. Okay, so Emperor Taisho was actually Meiji's son. Um, he had two older siblings, both died in infancy. Emperor upon the death of his father, but as he suffered from neurological issues for much of his life, he played only a limited role in politics and undertook no official duties from 1919. His declining health led to appointing his eldest son, Crown Prince Hirohito, as regent in 1921, and Hirohito succeeded him as emperor when he died in 26. Okay, so that's interesting. So after the Meiji period, so my question earlier was, do you got to off somebody for these names to change, for these periods to swap over? No, these three periods that follow. Let's go back here. Let's go back. So the Meiji period, the Taisho period, Taisho, son of Meiji. The Showa period in Japanese history corresponds to the reign of Emperor Showa Hirohito, which is the son of um, Emperor Taiyo. So we was just talking about Hirohito. Damn, so that's kind of fire. The Heisei period in Japanese history from 1989 to 2019 corresponds to the reign of Emperor Akihito and is named Achieving Peace. This era was defined by the collapse of the Japanese asset price bubble, leading to economic stagnation alongside significant political shifts. Numerous natural disasters, including the Great. Okay, so the Heisei period is just named that. And it means achieving peace. Hmm. So see, we'd have to see what was the turmoil before this to understand why it was named Achieving Peace. But um shortly after the death of to announce the new era name AC for Emperor Akihito and explain its meaning. According to Obuchi, the name Heisei was taken from two Chinese history and philosophy books, namely Records of the Grand Historian and Book of Documents. In the Records of the Grand Historian, a sentence appears in a section honoring the wise rule of the legendary Chinese Emperor Shun regarding reading flat inside and outside. In the Book of Documents, the sentence basically they translating, but it means the earth is perfect appears. By combining both meanings, Heisei is intended to mean peace everywhere. Uh, The Heisei era went into effect at midnight local time on January 1989, and in August 2016, Emperor Akihito gave a televised address to the nation in which he expressed concern that his age would one day stop him from fulfilling his official duties. This was an implication of his wish to retire. So that's just that in itself, like a brief overview of those three is really interesting because if I'm not mistaken, was it Emperor Showa who they said couldn't fulfill his no. I think it was Taisho. They said couldn't fulfill his duties. He led from 1912 to 1926, but wasn't a part of much official business due to health reasons from 1919. Do I got that correct? Due to poor health, his ability to rule was limited. Yeah. Which contributed to the power vacuum that allowed for the rise of the democratic movements. That's a vast shift for the economy over the course of what, 100 years? Just between the lineage of the Meiji. So you got grandfather, father, son. You led straight into westernization. And it seems like this period was kind of tumultuous throughout. Not I don't want to say tumultuous. It was I'm just saying it doesn't seem like everyone supported the decisions, right? And it happened so fast. We opened up the country. Now we're getting foreigners. The way that we view the government's changing. The way that we're viewing religion is changing. The samurai don't have any more control. That all happened in this Meiji era. And then as soon as the Taisho period starts, 7 years in, he can't even rule. That's like, how can we trust the government type shit? Seven years into his rule, he can't even fulfill his duties. Let's see, we still in this 10-minute history of the Meiji Restoration and the Empire of Japan, 1931. It still looks like they're
a detachment of the Japanese army in.
It still seems like they're back and forth in wars and such. So let's bring it back a little bit, because they tried to do the deal with Great Britain here. Great Britain said no because they don't want to see essentially anyone other than white people as equals.
Colonial subjects as equals, which wasn't going to happen. In 1920, Britain abandoned the Anglo-Japanese alliance, and the next year, alongside the United States, convened the Washington Naval Conference. This sought to limit the number of large ships each country's navy could have, with only Britain and the United States being allowed the most.
Now, peep that. See, that's why we had to go and do a quick little deep dive. In 1919, we're in the Taisho period right here, 1921, 1922, when the Washington Naval Conference happens. They say Japan y'all cool or whatever. Y'all can do your thing, but you can only have 3 ships. United States, United Kingdom, we got the majority. You know what I'm saying? We gonna always be like that. We clicked up. France, hey, y'all, whatever. But your emperor ain't even running the show. By this point here, 1921, 1922, you're hearing rumblings. Hey, the military's getting, essentially, your military's getting shrunk. You hear, hey, we pussy. The world telling us we pussy. And then you know in the back of your mind, the emperor can't do shit.
With only Britain and the United States being allowed the most. The next year, things wouldn't get much better for Japan due to a major earthquake which killed 150,000 people.
Good Lord. That's Katrina, George Bush. Wrong person running the show. Emperor Taisho is still in seat.
His economy collapsed and the military became much more influential in politics. In 1926, Emperor Showa, better known in the West as Emperor Hirohito, ascended the throne, and his reign saw the continued growth of emperor worship. On September the 18th, 1931, a detachment of the Japanese army in Manchuria attempted to destroy a piece of railway. They blamed Chinese rebels, and this was used as pretext for invasion, and by February the next year, Manchuria was a Japanese.
Okay, so we're still today, presently, we're still in the Meiji lineage. Right here, though, right here, I'm still fucked up thinking about how. All right, so now we're in the Showa period, 1932. Name change because obviously, hey, my father didn't do shit. My father didn't do shit. 1919 to 1926, hey, he had puppets. I mean, he was the puppet, rather. And I don't want to say it like that. That's probably crazy, but a lot has happened. Hold on. I just want to bring it back through this brief history real quick, because again, the Meiji period started when? Meiji period starts 1868, ends 1912. 44 years. Your dad, yeah. I'm putting myself in Taisho's position now, right?
It also used the chaos to issue the 21 demands to China. These were rejected, and eventually only 13 of these demands were agreed upon. Japan gained influence over Manchuria, but it sowed division between Japan and Britain, as well as
hold on, because I think. Okay, this still. Oh no, hold on. All right, so this is still in the Meiji period with the Russo-Japanese War, and that's the Russian-Japanese War.
Were firmly defeated. As a result, Japan gained this territory, and Russia agreed to leave Manchuria. Very little happened in the next decade unless you were Emperor Meiji, because that was when you died, or unless you were Korea, because that was when you were annexed. In 1914, Britain called Japan into World War I, which Japan used as an excuse to grab all of these German territories. It also...
Boom. All right. This is Taisho running the show. He leading off strong. 2 years in, he gets invited into the war. He like, I bet I'm taking these, you know what I'm saying, these nations, this mine. Let's get it, right?
Also used the chaos to issue the 21 demands to China. These were rejected, and eventually only 13 of these demands were agreed upon. Japan gained influence over Manchuria, but it sowed division between Japan and Britain, as well as upsetting the United States. For its help during the war, Japan was invited to join in drafting the Treaty of Versailles and in establishing the League of Nations. Japan asked for the League to consider all races as equal. This was rejected formally by the Americans, but it was mostly because of Britain, since it would have meant that Britain had to consider its colonial subjects as equals, which wasn't going to happen.
Again, fuck Britain. Fuck Britain. Hey, Kid Clip, shout out to you, man. Appreciate you tapping in, man. We this our history lesson for the day. We studying Japanese history right now. We started in the Edo period. I feel like going through the Meiji Restoration, like you could get a pretty quick overview in a short span, like a 10-minute. I think that one of these could be like a 10-minute overview of, hey. Now I know that there's a lot of complexities in here because, again, it's amazing to see this is direct lineage. All of this right here is direct lineage. Once they got the Tokugawa shogunate up out of here, and they put Emperor Meiji in place, nothing changed. Ain't nobody tried his family at all. Hey, but hold on. Let's go a little bit back beforehand. Azuchi Momoyama period. Let's see. Final phase of the Sengoku period in Japanese history from 1568 to 1600. After the outbreak of the Onin War in 1467, the power of the Ashikaga shogunate effectively collapsed, marking the start of the chaotic Sengoku period. In 1568, Oda Nobunaga entered Kyoto. That's what I'm thinking about when I was talking about conflict, the Sengoku period. Boom. Entered Kyoto to start Ashikaga Yoshiaki as the 15th and ultimately final Ashikaga shogun. His entrance marked the start of the Azuchi Momoyama period. Now, I'm wondering. Boom, hold on. I got an idea. What I wanted to see was, again, I'm kind of stuck on the Meiji Restoration, right? So, what was Meiji's relation to anyone throughout this prior to? Because it sounds to me like he might have been related to a past leader. Let's see. Emperor Meiji. Okay, damn, it just gave me the his predecessor was Komi, and we just saw that. Okay, so he was the 121st emperor of Japan according to traditional order of succession. Komi's reign spanned the years of 1846 through 1867, corresponding to the final years of the Edo period. Okay. During his reign, there was much internal turmoil as a result of Japan's first major contact with the United States, which occurred under. Yeah. We just read through that. Emperor Komei did not much care for anything foreign, and he opposed opening Japan to Western powers. Blah 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 blah. To his death and the collapse of the Tokugawa shogunate and the Meiji Restoration in the beginning of the reign of his son and successor, Emperor Meiji. So I guess there was no conflict there. The Tokugawa shogunate was established by Tokugawa Ieyasu after victory of I want to see the lineage. I want to see the lineage of Japan, like the emperors. We spitfiring through this real quick. I don't know if y'all want to deep dive into any of these, but damn. Nah, that's insane. That's insane. That's insane. Japan's entire history can be traced back to 10,000 BC. That's insane. You be like, damn, my daddy was a farmer. Yeah, or my great 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 great. You know what I mean? Was a farmer. Nigga couldn't do nothing else. That's that's crazy. That makes me want to see the Chinese rule because I read somewhere earlier that a lot of the I'm not gonna say a lot, but some of the names, and we just saw one with the Heisei period, but the names being after Chinese books, Japan and China history, because I didn't think they rock with each other. They share a complex history of intense cultural exchange and significant conflict, with China initially serving as a source of civilization for Japan before Japan's modernization and military expansion led to devastating wars culminating in World War II. Despite a history of trade and cultural ties, the legacy of Japanese wartime atrocities continues to strain modern relations through both nations also engage in economic cooperation. In ancient times, China, as a more developed civilization, heavily influenced Japan through the transmission of concepts like writing, Buddhism, centralized government, and architectural styles. So that makes sense. Chinese history, that's probably even crazier. I saw a video one day and it was like when you start thinking about like black history, everyone starts in slavery, right? And what fucked me up with that was, of course, that's not true. You know what I mean? There were black indigenous people here in America, obviously, right? Um, but if we were to even go through like African ancestry, right? And let's say you find out that, hey, I'm related to this tribe and this, you know what I mean? How extensive is it? And I'm just curious about that about every nation, right? But we don't know. You hear about these eras, right? You hear about the Japanese eras that lasted again 200 years and this and that, right? The first question on here is Chinese history 5,000 years old? I think that we're limited on a lot of African information. They try to keep us ignorant about that. But let's get back over here. We were looking at Chinese history because again, curious to see. All right, so it looks like they start with 8500 BC. We just saw the Japanese had 10,000 BC, but it ain't. Drake had a line. It ain't about who do it first or some shit like that. It's about who do it right, something like that. What is this? This is a list of Paleolithic sites in China. They are sorted in chronological order from the earliest founding to the latest. Yada yada. Anywho, let's see when they were civilized. Like when Chinese when did they become a civilization? Chinese civilization began in the Yellow River region around 6,000 years ago with the development of the Neolithic farming settlements. Early culture. I want to see. Let's just start and see. Nation state. When did they become a nation? China became a unified nation state in 221 BCE with the founding of the Qin dynasty. All right, let's start here then. Damn. The Qin dynasty was the shortest of any period in Chinese history. It was the first imperial dynasty of China. It is named for its progenitor state of Qin, an ancient Chinese state during the Zhou dynasty. It is traditionally dated to 897 BC. The state of Qin originally came from reconquest of Western lands that had previously been lost to the Irong. I don't know. Its location at the western edge of Chinese civilization allowed for expansion and something else. So I mean, even establishing yourself as a nation in 221 BC is crazy, and then being able to follow this history. But that makes sense that China being such, a large nation in itself, um would inspire something like Japan culturally, or a place like Japan culturally, just because of how small it was. Looking at the periods, let's go back to the Japanese periods over here. All right, so looking at the periods, I want to see when they became civilized. Boom. Probably in the Asuka period with the introduction of Buddhism from China and a period of major reforms. Yeah. Introduction of wet rice cultivation and metalworking. Mm-hmm. I mean, to see that the social structure hasn't changed in Japan as far as and I don't know what it's like today, of course, obviously, as far as you are what your parent is, you know what I mean? I'm sure it's nothing like that. But like their emperors, it ain't no democracy, bitch. Date all the way back. That's mind blowing to me. Cause in the Chinese history, them niggas is killing niggas. Matter of fact, let's see what Genghis Khan was on. Bro was out here just killing niggas. Was the founder of the first Khan, was the founder and the first Khan of the Mongol Empire. After spending most of his life uniting the Mongol tribes, he launched a series of military campaigns conquering large parts of China and Central Asia. And if I'm not mistaken, Genghis Khan was responsible for uniting everything, right? Damn, look at this storyline. Look at this storyline. All right, he was born to Mujin. He was the eldest child of Yasugi, a Mongol chieftain of the Borjigin clan, and his wife. I don't want to fuck these names up, so I do apologize. But Oelun, when Genghis Khan was 8, his father died, and his family was abandoned by his tribe. Reduced to near poverty, Genghis Khan killed his older half brother to secure his familial position. His charismatic personality helped to attract his first followers and to form alliances with two prominent steppe leaders named Jamuka and Togrul. They worked together to retrieve Genghis Khan's newlywed wife, who had been kidnapped by raiders. As his reputation grew, his relationship with Jamuka deteriorated into open warfare. Genghis Khan was badly defeated in 1187 and may have spent the following years as a subject of the Jin dynasty. Upon reemerging in 1196, he swiftly began gaining power. Togul came to view Temujin as a threat and launched a surprise attack on him in 1203. Genghis Khan regrouped and overpowered Togrul after defeating the Naiman tribe and executing Jamuka. He was left as the sole ruler of the Mongolian steppe. Now, this is just him trying to unite the Mongols. Now, from what I know of the Mongolian people, you fuck around and get your head bust. I'm trying to see if we can find kind of what they were known for. You know, some good old some good old stereotypes. Mongolian belongs to the Mongolic languages. The delimitation of the Mongolian language with monolith is such is much disputed theoretic problem. Blah, 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 blah. I can't read, y'all. I'm about retarded. So we'll have to get back to the Mongolian history. Genghis Khan ruled from when? 1206 to 1227. That was kind of the Mongol Empire. And when did he let's see. So if this map is showing what like I'm not sure what all was Mongolian territory in this time or what all were Mongol tribes. Like you got the Mongols here, but how did he rise to power? Now sole ruler of the steppe, Temujin held a large assembly called a Kurotai at the source of the Onan River in 1206. Here he formally adopted the title Genghis Khan, the etymology and meaning of which have been much debated. Some commentators hold that the title had no meaning, simply representing Temujin's estual of the traditional Gurkhan title, which had been accorded to Jamuka and was thus of lesser worth. They just speculating on what his name meant. Genghis Khan then began a social revolution in May's words as a traditional tribe system and had primarily involved to benefit small clans and families. They were unsuitable as the foundations for larger states and had been the downfall of previous steppe confederations. Genghis thus began a series of administrative reforms designed to suppress the power of tribal affiliations and to replace them with unconditional loyalty to the Khan and the ruling family. As most of the traditional tribal leaders had been killed during his rise to power, Genghis was able to reconstruct the Mongol social hierarchy in his favor. Well, you kill a nigga and it'll put a lot of fear into people, you know, to make you do what you want. um, let's see. Consolidation of power, 1206 to 1210. Mongol conquest of the Western Z. From 1204 to 1209, Genghis Khan was predominantly focused on consolidating and maintaining his new nation. He faced a challenge from the shaman, whose father had been allowed to marry his wife after he defected to Temujin. Kakeju, who had proclaimed Temujin as Genghis Khan and had taken the Tigris title. Tip Tangri, Giri. on account of his sorcery, was very influential among the Mongol commoners and sought to divide the imperial family. Genghis's brother Khazar was the first of Kaketu's targets, always distrusted by his brother Khazar. I don't know. I'm all over the place with this one. My curiosity with this was, when did Genghis Khan, I guess, unite China? I probably could have asked Google and got my question answered a lot quicker. Okay, so no, Genghis Khan did not unite all of China. He began the conquest by uniting the Mongol tribes and conquering large parts of the northern China, and large parts of northern China. But the complete conquest of China was finished by his successors. His grandson completed the conquest in 1279, establishing the Yuan dynasty as the first Mongol ruler of a unified China. Mm. And that dynasty lasted almost 100 years. And now let's go back to when let's go back to the Japan and Chinese history to see when they had their influence. Rise of modern Japan. So pretty much up until hold on. Okay. 1860, they start trading. 1912, they plotting. Many Chinese students had also studied in Japan and was also used as a base by Chinese political activists to overthrow the imperial Qing dynasty in 1912. So they was learning from Japan to overthrow their own shit. But a series of wars and confrontations took place between 1880 and 1945. Now, if I'm not mistaken, 1880, we started in the Meiji period, because I believe that kicked off 1868. Boy, let me tell you, 2 years into every one of them dynasties, it's some shit. 2 years into the Meiji dynasty, you got war kicking off between China. 2 years into the Taisho dynasty, you got a nigga about to die. Hey, Tenny Pop, I appreciate you popping in, man. Look, I'm all over the place, so we just trying to get. I'm just curious. We're going random topics, random days. I mean, random time or whatever. But Fridays, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start trying to stream early, and we just gonna study some history. Bobby Pump Vega, Joe, don't you think the world would be better without guns? I actually do. I do. Just imagine this. For one, if there were no guns ever, are you really gonna travel 6 months across sea to go and fight a nigga? You know how committed you gotta be. Like, yo, wait till my ship pull up, nigga. My ship dock, and I'm on the shit rocking like, woo. Wait till I get off this motherfucker. Even if it was, just local, right? Or domestic rather. Let's go domestic instead of local. Local's too easy. Of course, you'll drive 45 minutes, especially if you see some shit on Facebook. But are you flying to New York to fight someone? I think the world would be a much better place if we didn't have guns. But the double-edged sword, right? Unfortunately, there are crazy people in the world. And a lot of them crazy motherfuckers is super strong. Look at Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, if you ask me, was probably a crazy person. Just from what some of what we've seen and read. I don't know if y'all watched Marco Polo, but it is on Netflix. Tap in. That was an amazing show to me. They should have kept going with it. But imagine someone, strong and you can't defend yourself. Bow. So I get the necessity, right? I just hate that, shit like that happens, man. Because everything is a weapon at the end of the day. It's just what guns are used for make it such a heinous thing oftentimes. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's like a tool of murder, so at least like with the knife, you know what I'm saying? You can cut your watermelons with some shit, you know what I mean? Cut you a slice of an apple or something. It serves many purposes. And I think about it like that, to where like a lot of other weapons might have started with a different purpose. I mean, of course, not all of them. What the fuck would you use brass knuckles for? And even without fuck the guns, right? We were in Japan history. Man, they was killing niggas with swords. Samurais. Let's see if we can see any samurai work. When were the samurais expelled? 1868. 1868. They might got pictures, but you ain't getting no videos, no real videos of samurai, because it wasn't invented until 1880. We started to get film production, basically. Okay. But yeah, man, I mean, the samurai, it looked like they was about that shit. They might drive, or walk 300 miles to go and cut some shit down. So I can't necessarily say the world would be a better place without guns, because people still gonna be crazy and they'll find a way. Guns just make it quicker and easier for people to be crazy, unfortunately. I am an advocate for protecting yourself, though. I do recommend that everyone have one. Just, have the knowledge and wherewithal to understand your surroundings and all of that. Safety first.
In 1579, an African man arrived in Japan. His name, Yasuke. Yasuke was brought as a servant, but his height, strength, and bravery caught the attention of Oda Nobunaga.
We know about Yasuke. They got an anime about Yasuke on Netflix. I wasn't really the biggest fan. I think Lakeith Stanfield does the voice of it. Wasn't the biggest fan. Lakeith Stanfield, he good when the roles are catered to him, but I felt like they forced him into that one. Man, I don't want to see this. That's one of those. Hey, come for the retreat. But to even know that there's a sword like that, right? That could cut through essentially, bone. Like butter is crazy. Now think about this, Bobby Pump Vega. So your question was, would the world be a better place without guns, right? In Japan, the situation with swords was so bad, they legit had to ban carrying a sword. Let's Google that. The Sword Abolition Edict of 1876 banned the general public, including former samurai, from carrying swords in public, aiming to establish public safety in social stratification and centralize power in the new government. This move was part of a larger effort to create a modern centralized state with the national military and to prevent further samurai-led rebellions. Boy, you gotta register the sword in Japan. You can only take that thing to a martial arts dojo with a registration certificate proving it's a cultural artifact rather than a weapon. A sword without its registration card or a machine-made sword is considered a weapon and is illegal to carry in public. You need justifiable reason and a direct route from home to the dojo. Violating these rules. Carrying a sword without a registration certificate is illegal and can result in arrest. It can lead to detention or a fine under Japanese law, according to Krav Maga Global Japan. Machine-made swords are also prohibited. Key points to remember: sword is seen as a work of art in Japan, not just a weapon. It's crazy to think, just getting back to our Japan timeline. It's crazy to think that the Edo period sparks off, and essentially, if you're in power, if you're in a position of power, I mean, to any level, you could be a nigga holding the door at the hotel. If they held you in high regard, you straight, your people straight to this day. The Edo period gave 265 years to that. Ain't no telling how many generations of that is in the Edo period. Where was I at? He was preceded by the Ashikaga and Tokugawa shogunate. What is this? That period. Who was it led by? Forgive me. Matter of fact, let's pull up that Sengoku period. Let's see if I can find us a quick little clip on this one as well. It says it said that the essentially civil wars and conflict was just constant throughout this period. I'm curious also to see how long the Sengoku period was. Let's look that up real quick. So the Sengoku period, I'm assuming started 1454. Let's see what Google says. When did the Sengoku? Oh shit! It ended in 1615, but when did it start? 1467. 1467. So the Onin War lasted 10 years. From 67 to 77, during the Muromachi period in Japan, Onin refers to the Japanese era during which the war started. The war ended during the Bonmai era. A dispute between a high official, Hosokawa Katsumoto, and a regional lord, Yamana Sozen, escalated into a nationwide civil war involving the Ashikaga shogunate and a number of daimyo in many regions of Japan. So the Onin era name. This period spanned from 1467 through 1469. Now, if I'm not mistaken, what timeline is that? So that's the Muromachi period. Well, they got so many names going on all at the same time. They got the Onin era that's happening 9 years from oh no 2 years from 67 to 69, right? But aren't those the same corresponding times for the Sengoku period? So I'm imagining this is before we're a United Nation. Yeah, like I say, I mean, it's just interesting just to tap into to the history, see how deep, how far back you could just, like I said, we're skimming the surface on all of this, but look at what all we found out in an hour's time. Well, 2 hours now, you know. Let's pull up a Japanese song and hear what that sounds like. Classical Japanese music. Relaxing music of the Edo period, traditional Japanese music. Let's see. It's actually kind of nice. So you gotta think, you just macked you some little fresh tenderoni, you invite her back to the crib and you like, I got the vinyls. That's what you was playing. Yeah, baby, you like calamari in your sushi. A finger in your booty. Take that, take that. This actually is not bad. I could listen to this. You could sample this 10 times over. Reversible King said, "Oh, wrong rhyme ago." A rhyme ago in music. That's funny. Give me a real twerker in here. Why wouldn't that be like? This probably was the shit back in 1668. Imagine you about to go hunt a nigga down, kill him with your blade. Yeah, this vibe. This vibe. All right, to any of my fellow anime watchers, because we're on YouTube and because of Chinese influence on Japan, I'm gonna put y'all on game to this show that I really fuck with, which is called Blaze of the Guardian. I ain't never watched the trailer, but breath so cold. Yeah. Y'all fuck with anime.
Subscribe to my channel.
I forget what the what it's called, what the Chinese call it, but a dongzu if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, definitely tap in, check it out. Blaze of the Guardian. YouTube, they do like this here to where they give you the whole spill all in one. You know what I mean? It's like a 4 hour, but you get 1 through 15 episodes. Man, fire! So next week, what are we going into? What's our deep dive going to be? What should we study next week? Shit. And it don't have to be nation history. We could study the history of a man. We could study the history of a team. We could study the history of a queen. Matter of fact, man, we might have to go. Queen Cleopatra, because I don't know why I just saw a white woman. We might have to dive into some African history next week, y'all. Just go through some of the stories of Cleopatra, you know. Hey man, shout out to Doctor in the chat. Yeah, man. I think next week we gonna be on some African history, man. We might study into Cleopatra. Y'all been seeing any of this alien stuff they talking about? I uh I uh I think that is really interesting. I mean, hearing so much more information now about the pyramids in China. Like, let's look underground with the because from what I've heard or been seeing rather, right? Is like these interesting structures built into place to where, again, advanced technology, of course, right? But I heard that the bottom is built into a diamond as well. Now, if that's the case, I just want to think about this a little bit. As above, so below. I wish they had at least like a diagram of it. But I want to go to Africa one day just to, see some of this. I don't think I cared as much, not to say I didn't care. It's always been an aspiration, right? But finding out so much more about how these were built, it's like, yo, I gotta see some of this for myself. Like, can you be taught to have an engineering mind, or is that innate? Because just even using this as a like using our imagination, let's say that this is real, right? Hypothetically speaking. Is that something that you just like, can you be, you know what I'm saying? Can you be taught this? And if so, how the hell were they teaching it in 431 BC and shit? We probably still just scratching the surface of this shit. They probably was bringing people back to life in these pyramids for real. Who knows, man? But like, look at this. Like, this is a person. This is, I would assume, some sort of house, right? Just that being a statue built by man, like by hand. insane. Now these first couple layers right here in this wall, you know, you get about 5, 6 of us, 10, 20 of us. We could do this. We could build, you know what I'm saying? We could move these big ass rocks to build just this small structuring. But once you talk about going above head with a rock like this, I wish I could zoom in on this motherfucker. Crazy. Like, just looking at this picture, let's see how, you know, sometimes I wish you could just click on a picture and just get the picture. Not the ad, the website, the full loadout of everything else. I'll zoom in on the but look at this. I mean, whoa. Look at how many bricks or, you know, stones are built into this, right? And these look like the smaller pyramids. I don't know if there was a thing, you know what I mean? Like, hey, for King Tut, I want y'all to build 10 800 800-foot tall pyramids, you know what I'm saying? That said Cleopatra was Greek. Nah, man, I can't go for that. I do think she might have had some Greek up in her. Which made her a fairer skinned for that region. You know what I'm saying? A little lighter than most, maybe. But nah, man, that's African queen, bro. That's an African queen. They just want to make her white. Let me see. See, when you just search Cleopatra, boom, this is what you get, right? That way you search Queen Cleopatra. Boom, you start to get more black representation. Ooh, ooh. All right. And then let's see. Queens of Egypt. Ancient Egypt. Oh shit. That's a documentary? I wanted to actually know. Okay, they've got a good few queens. Nefertiti, Nefertari, Hatshepsut. I ain't gonna try and pronounce that one. Why she on here twice? Okay. This is the 18th. Oh, that's the 18th dynasty. I thought we was talking about the 18th century. I was like, damn, we got some traction here. I used to follow an Egyptian model on IG, and she was going crazy when they had blacks playing Egyptians in some Netflix show, but they don't know their history. Arab, Egyptian, they now are foreigners. Yeah, she was in Egypt. That was the era where the invaders came in. Yeah. Um, yeah, I definitely think that she has some yeah, no. Yeah. Who was her daddy? Who your daddy, girl? Ptolemy. Or Ptolemy. The Theos Philippeter. What is it? I don't even know who this is. His. Yeah. Damn. Imagine being an illegitimate son during these times. And then giving birth to a queen. Oh. He was king of the kingdom of Egypt who ruled 80 to. Hey, you done put me on some game, nah. You done put me on some game, nah. Cleopatra even killed her little sister so she couldn't be with the help of the Romans. She was a traitor in the end. Her sister was for the people. Joe, y'all should get Jocelyn Stone on the podcast. Where he be even naughty next time. Shit, we going to DC, so shit. That might be that we trying to put some work in, man. We gonna see. Hey man, this is really heavy stuff. So yeah. Next week we gonna get into some African history for sure. Um, Cause see, I'm gonna be real. I ain't even know the Greek was just posted up in Africa like that. Yeah, so next week we got our history, man. We got our history. Dr. Octa, man. Make sure you tap in next week too, man. we're gonna have to tag team some of this. Cause yeah, our goal is on Fridays. We're gonna do history throughout the week. We're gonna build playlists. We're gonna vibe a little bit. We'll shoot the shit. I'll start bringing some more guests in. You know what I mean? To kick it from time to time. You know, just shoot the shit with me on cam. But like I say, every day, y'all gonna see your boy. And I do gotta go to Pensacola this weekend, so I might not be streaming tomorrow, but I should be back up on Sunday, Monday. You know what I'm saying? And then from there we rocking out. We gonna, like I say, I'm getting caught up on things, turning shit around. Got a lot of work to put in, so y'all gonna get everything on the stream, man. This shit gonna be an amazing journey. I appreciate y'all tapping in for sure. If you're not already, man, go ahead and sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/RAO podcast. Man, we got so much content on there. Banks was just saying it earlier in the group chat that if you started today listening to all of the content that we've put out, it'd probably take you over a year, even if you was listening consistently to catch up. I mean, that says a lot. That says a lot. So y'all getting streams every day, bonus episodes, various shows, early access. You got opportunity to join the Discord, discount on merch, all kinds of shit, man. Definitely tap into the Patreon, patreon.com/REO podcast. If you haven't already, man, like the page down at the bottom, like this video, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and subscribe to the page if you're not. All of that shit helps. And like I say, man, now we just gonna be consistent with all of this. Monday, I know for sure when I come back on Monday, we're gonna deep dive into some music and shit, just vibe a little bit. We'll probably talk about some of the albums that came out, some of the things that have been going on in music. Yeah, man. Like I said, we're gonna put together a playlist as well. So y'all be thinking about these songs that y'all want to add and send in. I'm gonna try and start theming them out. So we'll do like, hey, this week we're gonna do R&B, we're gonna do rap, we're gonna do a culmination of both. Let's put together a playlist that you could just vibe to with your chick, vibe to, you know, when you out smoking, kicking it, cooling, whatever, you know what I mean? You know, I think that as we build with this, we're gonna get a lot, you know, of we'll equally get a lot out of it. My goal is to provide a little knowledge, a little entertainment, and a whole lot of ignorance. Fuck it.
Whoop de doo.
Yeah, man, I think I'm pretty tapped today for what else I got. We did a deep dive through Japanese history for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Yeah, I gave y'all what I got on that. So next week we're gonna tap into some African history. I'm a lean on Doctor, and we gonna kind of build a structure around how we present it, or at least how we chasing this information. But yeah, man, when we come back, we're gonna tap in with the African history, go through some of the queens, and you know, I try and build on all of this consistently. And like I say, if y'all got any suggestions, even on how I could be a better streamer, which I would like to see me doing, shit like that, shoot us a message on the podcast, Instagram, REO Podcast. Y'all can reach out to me personally at It's Mr. Jefferson. Yeah, man. With all that said, as Amp would say, shit, I'm out. Y'all be safe.